So welcome everybody. This is our second open forum with Feng Shui experts, and today we have EDEL CLEARY and Elizabeth Wells, and both accredited consultants, and they have combined, I don't know, should I mention your age? You've been doing it for over 50 years.
No. I don't like that age.
I know. So the details of your websites are there, but I'll show you the slide as well, and it's recorded, so in YouTube channel people can click on those links to find the details about your work and how to find you. But a couple of disclaimers. So this webinar is going to be recorded and posted online on the Feng Shui Society YouTube channel. So be mindful if you're asking questions or sharing some information for personal privacy. We're not going to edit it too much unless you ask us afterwards. And obviously the opinions expressed within the content of this open forum are solely those of the experts, unless otherwise noted, and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, beliefs, and values of the Feng Shui Society, its members, websites, or its affiliates. The information and suggestions presented are not intended to replace sort of a one-on-one relationship with your qualified healthcare professional, doctor, and are not intended as a medical advice, if there is such one. There are many schools and approaches to Feng Shui, hence there's not necessary consensus on different aspects of Feng Shui, as you probably all know. So the format, all questions are welcome, obviously invalid. Don't be shy. We love any questions, and even the simplest questions can stir up a lot of interesting discussion. If for whatever reason you have visuals, it's easy to share them via Zoom screen. Maybe we can do that, or you can send me quickly an email, and that's the membership@fengshuisociety.org.uk. And obviously be mindful again of your personal privacy. Any kind of sensitive questions can be asked at the end when we stop recording. And maybe tell us if you're asking questions, what's your level of Feng Shui kind of knowledge, understanding, experience, beginner, intermediate, professional, expert, and so on. So that's kind of a general thing. And we'll kick on with the first question. So I know EDEL has some visuals. Do you have that question already on the visual, EDEL? So you want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
you can read it from this slide.
Yeah, I might read it from there because there's a little bit more detail here than what I have in the slide, just in case I missed anything. So this question came in from Jackie. Thank you so much for bringing it to the forum. So this client had moved into a one-bedroom council flat a year ago. And in the past year, she had experienced respiratory tract infections and niggling bad luck. And she is careful with her diet and is on a an exclusion diet for some foods. And she explained that from her kitchen window, she can see a petrol station forecourt. And in the neighbor's back garden, there's an electrical substation. So two big environmental things going on there. And added to this, a previous owner had died in the flat. And he was a heavy smoker, and so the walls had been very discolored when she moved in. So she has redecorated and brightened up the flat, but feels that she's stuck in certain areas of her life and thinks that a Feng Shui consultation will help. Now she said she has cures and she wishes to bring into certain areas, and she knows that Feng Shui placement, or Jackie was saying she knows that Feng Shui placement will not address the major factor of the fumes coming from the petrol station and the EMF coming from the electrical substation. So Jackie was saying, she was kind of in a little bit of dilemma about this Feng Shui consultation, because obviously there's a big environmental factor, and it's in very close proximity to a petrol station, and so she offered it up as a discussion point, and thank you so much for that, Jackie. And also she pointed out that being a council flat, it'll probably be difficult enough for her to move. Liz and I had a brief discussion about this, and we were kind of saying, these two big things are quite large environmental factors to take into account. One on its own, yeah, you can deal with, and two, that's challenging. So we kind of said, well, okay, let's take a stand back from it and look at the big picture here. Before we move into the question, are you okay, Liz? If I just very briefly
Yes,
talk
sure,
through
yeah,
that? Jump in, please do.
Yep.
So, you know, we were looking at, okay, she feels stuck. There's definitely predecessor energy from the previous person who lives there. There's some environmental things, the niggling bad luck things, you know, might give us an indication of chi flow. So healthy homes, definitely big issues here, as well as Feng Shui. So obviously with Feng Shui, we look at every area of your life, and health would be one of them. We would look at balancing the flow of the 5 elements. We would look at maybe definitely looking at some stability along this central earth energy axis, giving us some grounding and stability, and, you know, kind of looking after her health and well-being. We might look for some support over here in the helpful friends, and where can we garner support in terms of the environment and so on. But we decided that maybe we should zoom out a little bit before we would get into the nitty-gritty of Feng Shui, because we need to look at, okay, let me look at the big picture first before we get very, very focused in on some smaller points. So we kind of said, well, okay, longer term planning is going to be a major issue here. So, you know, maybe she should you know, put up the kite with the council and say, you know, I'm having some health issues. Could you maybe put me on a long-term waiting list to switch a property? Just to put it out there into the universe, on the basis that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So, you know, put it out there and just float that one away, and just put in the question. She might go and chat to somebody in the council and maybe see if there's something mitigating they could do. Definitely, if you planted some trees between you and the substation, or between you and the petrol station, or putting some planting of some sort, if there was space to do that, that might be an issue. And you may very well, you know, with the greening of all of our environments, that might just, you know, be an option. You never know what they might have a committee for that very purpose. So put that out there first, you know, put the wishes and aspirations. I don't know if even if this client would like to move. So I haven't met her, I don't know, but just as an option, if she had that in her head for a long-term future goal, she could just put that out into the universe and set that little train in motion in the background. And then Liz, you want to speak to this next piece where we were kind of looking at?
Yes, yes, something like this. We weren't really aware, I don't think, whether she actually liked living in her home or not. And I think that to start on a positive, to ask her what, if there is anything that she does like about her home, what, you know, and also obviously what brings her joy, what does she love about it? When she puts her key in the front door and she walks in, what is there that she particularly loves about it? And yes, her neighbours, the quality of light, obviously all of those are part of the remit, I think, isn't it? Looking at those and focusing on the positive. Well, what brings her joy may have been highlighted when she completed her questionnaire for you, Jackie, I don't know already. But focusing on the positives, I think, at the beginning of any consultation, rather than what isn't working. You know, it's very easy, I think, to step in and immediately get swamped by this isn't right and that's not right and something else isn't right. And if you can just have some positives to work from to begin with, I think it's a good start for any consultation.
Yeah, and then we were talking about the space clearing aspect, which would be a nice place to start before we got into healthy homes or anything else, is to really, for herself, to release the predecessor energy that was there, release any worry or stress or anxiety she had around living in a space where somebody had passed away, where maybe there had been, you know, health complaints there for somebody before, and around the environmental factors. And, you know, we will address those as well. But to just start with, you know, a clean slate, the space clearing is really useful. And you had some very interesting points on that, didn't you, Liz?
Well, I had a story. I'm big in my stories. I do love my stories. So, yes, on space clearing, it's not something I push, if you know what I mean. It's not one of my favorite aspects of Feng Shui, but I will do it. And on this particular occasion, which is 2 or 3 years ago now, a company asked me to go and do a space clearing. It was a little bit overwhelming because they wanted all the offices doing, of which there was quite a considerable amount, and all the working area. So there was a lot to do. But anyway, the guy was really quite desperate, and his business was supporting energy companies with carbon and energy efficiency based schemes. And it was where the government would ask the energy companies to set up schemes, you know, introducing different heads in showers to reduce the flow. And there were loads of other ones as well that they were doing. Anyway, when they first started this, they moved to these new premises and it was all gung-ho and absolutely fantastic. And then they got stuck for 9 months and he was gradually having to let staff go, and really did not know what to do. He could not get any commitment from any of the energy companies at all. Anyway, he asked me to come in, and he and I did this space clearing, and by the end of that, we were just finishing off, and he had emails out pouring in, literally pouring in as we finished the space clearing. And I mean, he said, after being stuck for 9 months, we had to recruit. It literally exploded, and we had to recruit over 50 people in only a few weeks to cope with the amount of work and demand that was made on us. And, you know, people always go, oh, it's coincidence, it's coincidence. Well, why? You know, it was quite extraordinary. So he said the place feels different now. The plants and the people are thriving. I feel more engaged and excited. There's a terrific energy about the place. Many people have commented on the new feel, and I heartily recommend it. Just don't tell my competitors. So, you know, brilliant. That's space clearing. That is space clearing. What it does, I'm never cease to be amazed what a difference it can make for people and for the environment that you're space clearing.
It just shifts the emphasis as well, doesn't it? It really shifts the emphasis away from the past and into the new future, new pattern of energy that you're trying to move forward to. And that's brilliant. And then we kind of then decided maybe we need to get very practical here.
Yes,
this is an image from a book called How to Grow Fresh Air by B.C. Wolverton. And it was a study done on 50 everyday houseplants and their ability to add moisture to the air, which is really useful where there's a lot of electrical equipment and everything else, which there is in most of our modern homes. And also, where the reason I'm talking about transpiration and moisture is that you can get a lot of dry air and static buildup where you've got a lot of electricity going on. But also, this book really outlines each plant's ability to actually take specific airborne toxins from the air and transmute them. So where you have specific chemicals in the air, particular plants have been scientifically shown to actually mitigate for that. So as you can see, a lot of these plants just in this one slide have benzene listed, and benzene would be a component in petroleum. So that's something that she could look at. And I don't know how much space she has, whether she has a balcony, whether she has room to actually add big plants into her space. But even something as simple as this, her kitchen window looks out onto the petrol forecourt. So this will mitigate for the view, if nothing more. So that's really, really useful. It'll mitigate for the view, and it'll also hopefully help with some of the toxins that might be in the air. That's one thing that you could definitely do. As I said, if you can get the council to plant on the common area some taller trees. How fabulous, between her and the offending petrol station, or between even her property and the neighbour's ESB, or I'm calling it ESB, that's the Irish, the Electrical Supply Board, but you know, that substation. So it's possible to do something as a community, but then coming back into your own space, what can I do physically and practically? And that mitigating for the view was a very interesting one. Liz, you were talking about that with another of your clients that had an issue about a view that was kind of
yes,
unpleasant.
that's right. Because we can't always choose the view we have. Compromise often is the case when we're buying homes. And this lady obviously didn't have any choice whatsoever with the views from her kitchen and bedroom windows. On this occasion, yes, another of my little stories. I had a client who had a house in Stockport, and it was opposite the main railway line between Stockport and London, which is incredibly busy just with those particular trains, let alone all the other trains that would be running on it. So very busy line. And her house, she thought it was in a straight line with a lot of other ones, but actually it didn't. It protruded slightly. The corner, one of the corners of it protruded slightly, so that she had this horrendous illusion of, when she looked through this side window, the train traveling along the railway line looked as if it was actually coming straight towards her. Shar-Chi at its worst, almost a moving direct energy. And it really made her hate the house. And I mean, there were loads of other things that we looked at. Anyway, we talked about that, and actually it's something that's come up in several other of my clients over the years, but this one was like the worst one. It was like gobsmackingly awful. Anyway, we had a chat what she could do. We talked about putting things on the windowsill that were up that could block that view, but in the end we came up with hanging some spheres that had different facets to them. I don't think they were crystals, and I can't remember exactly what they were, but there were 3 in a group. And so she hung them, and I said, you must get your husband or somebody to hang them in the exact place where that train is approaching you, so that you cannot see it, which is indeed what she did. I mean, obviously we moved the chairs so that it wasn't something that she would be sitting still looking at. But a very interesting one, and it worked. Again, I had a lovely testimonial about that, and other parts of the property she wasn't happy with either, but that was the main one. So I think, views from windows can always be improved. I mean, that particular photo that EDEL had just now in the slide before, with the plants in the windows, filling the windows virtually, weren't they? I mean, that is absolutely delightful. And imagine the the negative ions that would be coming from those. Brilliant, EDEL. A lovely idea. I can't see how the shelving is supported, but it could be suspended, I guess, as well.
It seems to be on just little protruding brackets. So they're just glass shelves. They're quite light, so they can be screwed into a board. So that's probably a board.
Oh, yes.
Planted in there.
Yes.
So quite easy, because they're not heavy.
No.
Those are plant pots. The other, I suppose, more traditional cure that people would use might be a Bagua mirror. And the Bagua mirror simply has the I Ching symbols in the early heaven sequence, which depicts I suppose complete balance, perfection. So what you're doing is reflecting back out perfection to mitigate for anything that might be perceived as negative towards you, which is said to balance for that. Another thing that I regularly recommend for if there's cutting chi or anything that's kind of sha chi coming towards the space, might be to get a mirror ball such as this, not a disco mirror ball, but a smooth mirror ball like this, to just act as a deflector. of qi. And even just doing that mitigates to a degree energetically. Some people like to disperse qi or invite in positive qi with crystals to where when the sun hits them, they can disperse some rainbow light in the space. This one has a lovely hand cut wood moon shape. So you have the sun and the moon, the yin and the yang balance in it. So there's lots of different things that you can do. And this particular company makes them with various different woods, and the different woods have different qualities. So this one is yew, which is for transformation. And so you can really delve deep into some of these very, very seemingly simple things, but that have great deeper meaning. And so when the client gets involved in, you know, what has meaning for them personally, then that really, every time they see it, it's like a positive, physical positive affirmation, reminding them of what they're putting out there in response to what might be coming in, you know, and that's what they have control over. That's what they have control over. And then geopathic stress obviously might be something that we could look at as well. And some Feng Shui consultants will do this for you. They might map dose from a distance, or they might dose on site with the dowsing rods, and help to balance for that. And there's lots of different systems and methods to work for that. For environmental stress, like something like the Helios device, which works on many different levels. Things like Orgonite, Spiral of Tranquility. Many different people work with crystals, and that depends on you know, the consultant's own kind of I suppose extra training that they might have done in some of these different areas. But even something like Shungite is tremendously healing and powerful for negating negative energy of many different types. So there's avenues of discussion to be had with the client, and what resonates with the client will obviously make a difference. And actually, Liz, you had a couple of really good examples as well of geopathic stress. Sorry to keep leaning on you here now for your examples.
I hope you're liking these stories.
I love your stories, you see. I think they're brilliant.
Yes, geopathic stress is very close to my heart. It's funny, in the last couple of weeks, I've done a lot of geopathic stress removal, well, neutralizing, I should say, sadly, never to be removed. But yes, on these particular ones, I like to have stories that will prove to me that geopathic neutralizing the lines really works, because you know, people, you can do it for people and they can tell you, oh, I feel so much better, oh, I'm sleeping so much better. But you know, we all know, don't we, the power of thought in these things. So on this particular occasion, it was a lady who had Spanish water dogs. She bred them, and she had, quite a lot of them, 5 or 6 of them, quite big dogs as well, in her home. And her main reason for asking me to come and carry out a consultation was that she liked to sit down in an evening and have the dogs all sitting all over her, around her, and you know, that was what she loved. And she said, and for some reason they aren't doing that now. They are just, we all settle down in an evening to watch whatever, Coronation Street or whatever it is. And she said, and then in 5 minutes they've all got up and walked away. It's very distressing. So we neutralized the lines, and I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, is that a week later she contacted me and said, I can't believe it, Liz. I am so delighted. The dogs are all over me again, and they stay there when I'm watching the television. Well, simple thing, isn't it? And just amazing, really. But the dogs didn't know what we'd done, so that was a good one. And a similar one with the baby sleeping in the corner of the cot, which a lady did me a testimonial and said how much better the whole family was sleeping, but she was particularly delighted about the baby, who was always scrunched into a corner of the cot, and now actually used the whole entire cot since the neutralizing of the line. So, you know, if you need proof, we've got it. We've got it that it works. It's wonderful. And I'm sure this lady would find a big difference. I mean, of course, if Jackie was doing space clearing, it wouldn't be necessary. The geopathic stress would be neutralized at the same time in the space clearing. But if she chose just to go with this one, I'm sure she'd find that there was a big difference when you'd finished.
And then that brought us on to the whole subject of bedrooms, where we were saying, you know, this is the area where you could really focus on her because health was a major big issue.
Absolutely.
Where we're sleeping is, you know, we're there for the longest, I suppose, portion of time within our homes. If we're outside the home working and whatever, this is where our bodies are exposed, where we're meant to go to our bedroom for rest, relaxation, rejuvenation, and romance, of course. But definitely, if we're being stressed by environmental stressors, then we're not going to be getting up at the end of a night's sleep feeling rested, feeling regenerated, feeling rejuvenated. And one of the major big things that we do find that really interrupts restful sleep would be electromagnetic fields. Now, she's already told us that there's a big electromagnetic field coming from the substation next door. I don't know what aspect of her house, of her apartment, the bedroom is, whether it's on the same orientation as this substation. But, you know, we can nearly have the impact of a substation internally in our bedrooms with this very offensive thing here sitting on our little bedside locker. You know, it's not ideal to use your mobile phone as your alarm clock, to use it, you know, to have it anywhere near your body. For a start, you're inviting people to disturb your sleep, because you're saying it's okay to phone me in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping. That's what you're saying by having this phone here beside you. And then, you know, every 6 minutes or so, 6 to 8 minutes, your phone sends out what they call a handshake to the next nearest mobile phone tower, and that creates a little surge in the field, and that slightly wakes you up out of your deep REM sleep. So it's actually stimulating your nervous system when your nervous system is trying to rejuvenate and regenerate and calm down. So the teaching is really that it needs to be at least 6 feet away from your body, if not in another room, if you can avoid. But I mean, we all have similar to this type of thing going on. You know, maybe there's televisions, maybe there's music players. I've seen situations where people have neon lit signs above their beds. Don't ask me why, but they.
Well, can I just mention here? I did a consultation today, and when you pull that particular sort of cartoony sketch out, I couldn't believe almost an identikit of the bedroom that they were sleeping in. I mean, I use obviously my EMF meter. It was huge. It was absolutely huge. So we tried pulling the bed away from the wall, and it was still a bit. And I said, well, I can't understand it. You know, usually it goes down immediately. You pull a headboard away. Anyway, then I happened to notice that there was something stuck on the back of the headboard, and it was these. I don't know whether they're LED lights. It was a strip that was stuck around the back of the headboard, so that it lit up at night and apparently was very sexy. And I said, well, it may well be sexy, but I said, it's not doing a lot for your health, is it? Well, what can I do? I said, well, what do you think you could do? Oh, I couldn't take it off. My husband would be very annoyed if I took it off. Well, I said, then that's your choice, isn't it? You'll sleep in high EMFs then for however long you choose. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? How people in some ways would rather put up with that. It was screeching. The machine was screeching. It was over 1,000. I've never had my machine ever go over that. It's awful. Anyway, I don't know what they're going to do in the end, because
could you plug it out and switch off the plug at the wall? Would that?
Oh, we tried that. It didn't seem to make any difference.
Wow. So something was making it live. Even wow.
Yes, because of course we know, don't we, about electric blankets, that you've got to do that. It's no good just turning the switch off. You've got to pull the plug out. But no, whether it was holding the power, I've no idea. I don't know. I just felt that conversation was going to go on for quite a long time, and actually I'd had enough by then, so I wasn't going to linger. I told her what the problems were, and you know, what she could do. So anyway, we'll wait and see what they decide. But there was quite a few other little gizmos all over the place as well, which I pointed out were not going to be too good.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
difficult.
apart from anything else in this picture here in your cartoon, you know, sitting with a desk with your laptop open is a big no-no too, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think, you know, the problem now that most people have well, during lockdown certainly, and now people are going into hybrid working situations, and a lot of people are having a dual purpose bedroom, you know, where they're working from home. And so, you know, what you really do have to do is have a separation of the two. So when you're finished your work, you really do need to fold everything up, put it away, plug it out, and repurpose the room for the purpose that the room was originally intended, which is for rest and rejuvenation. Because a laptop or a computer, in the same way as a television, even when it's turned off, it's kind of talking to you on a mental level, saying you're missing something, you need to check your email. So this is a chat going on, whether that's nothing to do with EMF, but there is a mental chatter going on. I must check, and I just switch it on for a second to do whatever. And so you're not resting your mind even at that level. But then you charge in the electromagnetic fields, and you really are sitting in sleeping in an electrically charged space. And what that does is it stimulates your nervous system. And when our nervous system is overstimulated, we become exhausted. So you're actually waking up in the morning exhausted when you should be waking up rejuvenated. And if that's the case, you need to strip away some of these layers and see, well, you know, is it this? Is it this? Is it a combination of the whole lot of it? And strip back to a point where you feel in balance, because that's going to be important. So while this client of Jackie's didn't have any control per se over the substation, she probably had a whole heap going on in the apartment that was within her remit, that she could peel away the layers of the onion until she got to a point where actually now I'm in balance. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling good when I wake up in the morning. And these are some of the layers that she could look at. So hate to be a bearer of a little bit of bad news there, but it's a good thing to kind of note. Definitely, and she had mentioned that she had redecorated. And so, you know, choosing healthier options is going to be really, really important, most especially in her bedroom. So choosing paints with low VOC or no VOC where she can. There's a company called Auro, AURO, who are the only company who are proactive in listing what's in their tins of paint. They're a little bit more expensive for sure, but definitely if you're somebody who has health complaints, who has health issues or health concerns, you might look down that avenue for yourself. They used to have a tremendously difficult way of having to mix the paints. So they'd give you the pigment and the dye and the powder, and you have to mix it all yourself. And how interesting is that to get the same color every time? But now they do pre-mix, so that's the good news. But just choosing healthier options in terms of fabrics and fibers, because everything that is synthetic, when you bring it into your home and heat it up to room temperature, it will outgas whatever chemical components are in it. So sometimes you can be living in a bubble of chemical that we're not even aware of anymore. It becomes like background noise, and that can tip our health as well. And because she had made issue of her respiratory issues, then, you know, that's something definitely she could think of looking at. Have you anything to say on that particular subject, Liz?
No, I don't think so. Well, other than curtains is something. It would be a shame for her to have to draw the curtains to block the view. I forget which one it was. I think it was a substation, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it would be interesting to note when Jackie goes with her meter, whether it would make any difference closing the curtains, or whether the curtains are man-made or natural fibers as well. And you can get some curtaining out that you can hang at the window. I'm not the EMF, I don't think. I think it's more for the, or is it for the EMF? Forgotten now. That will block, well, it won't block.
Well, you can get earthing fabric. You can get earthing fabric. Yeah, so there's lots of things out there on the market. If she's going to stay there and she wants to make it as healthy a space as she possibly can, building these layers till she gets to the point of balance for her, that's going to be really, really important. And then the other really important thing is to ground your energy. You know, I mean, really very simple. but you know, earthing your energy through actually putting your feet on the earth. So if she has a park near her, or a beach, or a forest where she can actually take off her shoes and socks and put her feet on the earth, it will release a lot of charge from her body, and she can pull up the positive charge from the earth. That's going to be really useful. And where you know where you need to ground your energy is when you're getting a lot of static off things. So when you're getting a charge, or off the elevator, or off other people, or off a fabric or whatever, that's a sign that you've built up a positive charge in your body. So you need to release it into your body, into the earth. So, you know, that is definitely something that she could look at. And these aren't necessarily feng shui per se, but they're definitely things that she's going to have to look at, you know, as a big picture thing. So choosing healthier cleaning products, choosing healthier body care, choosing healthier foods, which she said she's done already. It all builds to the big picture, you know, before you then start to apply feng shui to your space. And then really just creating an atmosphere. So bringing in natural sounds from nature. So she sounds like she's in a busy urban environment. So she can bring in some sounds of nature, maybe by having a water feature, diffusing some essential oils. Essential oils we could have a whole talk about. We're not going to go into huge detail there today, but suffice to say that's an area of passion with me, because I'm a qualified aromatherapist for more than 30 years. And I would definitely always encourage people to use natural as opposed to synthetic scents in their space. We've all seen the adverts for the thing you plug in, and every time you walk past it, it puffs out synthetic scent at you, and that's my worst nightmare. Please don't do that in any home, but definitely don't do it if you've got respiratory issues, or you've got, you know, already an environment that's maybe full of a lot of things you don't have control over. So essential oils are fantastic because they have a mind, body, spirit action, but there's a lot of scientific proof of particular oils' abilities to clean the air and to boost your immune system. So any of the pines at this time of the year, black spruce, really, really useful for sick building syndrome, and really, really useful to help us breathe. Now I'm going to say one proviso here. If you already have asthma or respiratory issues, even oils that are good for that may be contraindicated for you. And the way to know is to simply take the lid off the bottle and just waft it at a distance and see if you feel any congestion. If you do, it's not for you. Okay, so that's just a proviso there. You've always got to be very careful. Depends on where you're at in terms of your health. But in general, those oils are absolutely wonderful, and the citrus oils as well. Orange is wonderful. Orange, lemon, grapefruit, but orange we love just to marry in with feng shui cures and enhancements, because orange in feng shui is considered to be very lucky. It's given in the new year. It's given as a symbol of good luck and abundance. And so I generally recommend it at New Year to, you know, use a couple of drops of orange essential oil and bathe down your front door and your entrance, and how lovely, and you're boosting your immune system while you're doing it. So that's a really, really nice thing to do. So we could go on at length about essential oils, but we're going off on a tangent, so I'm not going to do that. So we'll go back to, have you anything further to say on this particular case history, Elizabeth, or are you happy to move on to the next?
No, you know far more about the essential oils than I do. So EDEL, so no, happy for you to carry on.
Yeah, no, it's really just, it's a wonderful world to investigate for yourself. I mean, things, a simple thing like lavender is a wonderful one to use. It's very balancing for all of the chakras. It's considered the rescue remedy of essential oils. So for most people, it's a lovely one to balance the chakras and to bring about calm. But I will just say again, as the proviso, scent is like color, is like sound. It's very personal. So it will bring you right back into memory. It impacts the limbic system, which will bring back memories of, you know, maybe something stressful or something positive. So while in general, lavender is a lovely calming oil, if you have a negative association with it, it's probably not going to be the one for you. But in general, lavender is wonderful. Orange would be wonderful. Any of the conifers are really lovely at this time of year, but specifically good for cleaning the air. Think about when you go into a pine forest and you inhale that lovely sense of cleansing, of calming. And you know, people talk about going forest bathing. You can actually bring that essence into your own home. It's quite lovely. Not to mention we do it at this time of the year anyway. And that leads on, I think, Jan, to one of your other questions, which is where to put your Christmas tree, isn't it?
Yes, so thank you very much. That was very comprehensive and in-depth for this complex issue. So I think other people can benefit from this. Just one little thing for maybe people who are new to Feng Shui. Geobatic stress, as the name suggests, is from Greek geo, earth, and patic, to do with suffering or illness. It's to do with kind of harmful, maybe negative influences coming from the earth. But you can research that online. There's a lot of places, and actually there's a lot of scientific research on that as well. So yes, so any questions, anybody who's listening? Let's open the floor to others. If you've got any questions or comments, this is a good time. And I still have a few questions for EDEL and Elizabeth. Anyone?
I just want to say thank you for the great advice there, really in depth, and yeah, it's something to empower the client with, rather than frightening them about the negatives. A lot of good advice. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for bringing the question, Jackie, because it's so relevant, and so many parts of it are relevant to everybody. You know, there's something in there for everybody to bring to their own home space, regardless of how extreme or otherwise their own particular environment is. And we're all going to be, you know, not everybody stays in the same house forever, and so perhaps in another home they might come upon that very problem, and now they've a little bit of information, so it's really useful.
Thank you.
Right. So anybody else want to say anything? I've got a question. Yes, Joy, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hi. Yes, on the fumes and smell issue, one thing I would consider, rather than covering up the smells with another smell, is maybe investing in an air purifier.
Mm.
Oh, what's happening? So yeah, so rather than covering it up, actually cleaning the air
as well.
And another thing that she could use are charcoal bags as well. They absorb lots of toxins out the air and can take smells out of the air.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Joy. Actually, and I agree wholeheartedly with not masking a smell, but actually pure essential oils will actually clean the air. So that's why I was saying don't use the chemical plug-in thing, because then you are for sure adding another chemical to the mix. But yeah, absolutely, an air purifier, you know, the charcoal, anything you can do to mitigate for what's there, and then use something proactively positive to cleanse the air and add something uplifting and positive and health giving. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree there with that.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, it depends on obviously on the resources. Air purifiers, good air, unfortunately they cost. So Dyson will cost at least £500, and if you have to add maybe negative ionizer. Negative ionizer is kind of cheap, about £25. So definitely kind of different things, but plants are obviously as useful as well. So right, so next question, we need to keep going. So Christmas tree, so this is December 2022. So we've got a question from Anna. I'm not sure whether she's here. What's the best place for the Christmas tree this year? Is it best to use Compass Bagua or Free-Gate Bagua? And I put these two things for people who are new to this. And she's read confusing and conflicting information regarding certain directions, she didn't specify, and places where Christmas trees shouldn't be placed this year. And in the meantime, I'll look online, and there's actually some information online saying that you shouldn't put the Christmas tree in this place because there's a negative energy coming from direction, or you put this in this part of the house based on some kind of a formula. So I see where she's coming, but what do you have to say about this, please?
Do you want to go first, Liz, or do you want me to jump in?
Well, yes, I must say, reality strikes me that there's only one place in our house where I could put one, so it would get put there anyway. So whether there's negative energy coming out it or not. But certainly if you've got lots of choices, then obviously it's important to choose which one. I haven't read anything about Christmas trees placements this year, so I'm not in a position to comment on that at the moment. What about you, Edel?
Yeah, I mean, there's many approaches to Feng Shui, and this is where, you know, this person has gone online and read various different, you know, articles, and that's where people get a little bit confused. Is because I always kind of use the analogy of different spokes of the same wheel. The idea in the end is balance. You're just coming at it from a slightly different perspective. So some schools of Feng Shui might be very much astrology based and coming in at heaven's energy, coming in and down. Some will be very earth based and really grounded in and rooted in earth energy work. And some then kind of blend the two in different styles of Feng Shui. And so, you know, I suppose if you were to look at the Bagua that you have here on the, and Ba meaning 8 and Gua meaning directions or energies that Jan has kindly put up here, there's, if you just look at the schools that look at the Bagua, there's 2 different approaches to even using that. So again, you might think, oh, which one is right and which one is wrong? And I always say to people, there isn't a right or a wrong. What we're trying to do is create a 3-dimensional flow of energy through your space. So we're balancing the 5 elements, we're balancing your energy with that of your space. And so whichever avenue resonates for you, whichever school of Feng Shui resonates for you, that's right for you at that time. So, you know, as a very clever teacher once said to us, if your intention is right, you can't do it wrong. And I hate to quote you there, Jan, but there you go. But, you know, that is the point. You have to come from the place of intention, of good intention. What is your intention for what you're doing? So on the basis of using the Bagua, there are 2 wood or tree energy areas that might benefit from a big healthy green tree being in your space. Now it's not, unless it's in a pot, it's not actually alive, but it has that lovely vertical emphasis and it's got those lovely yang lights attracting attention to it. And so they would be the east, which is family, elders and community if you're using the compass orientation, and then the southeast, which is wealth, blessings and prosperity. And then the area that's fed by wood, which is the fire energy area, would be the south, which is fame, reputation, recognition. And I suppose when we think about it, bright lights and flashing lights is very much fire energy because it's to do with a stimulation and it's active, and fire is here 1 minute, gone the next. It's the flash in the pan. It's that yangizing of energy. And so you could possibly say those areas. Then you could say any of the earth energy areas, then if you're going to say it's a yangizing thing. So actually it's a stimulating energy for wherever you put it. And you can, while I'm just talking about the 2 different schools, if you're using 3-door gate, you will set the Bagua to the front door of the house. And so we would be talking about areas 3 and 4 being middle left and rear left. And then the area associated with fame and reputation as rear middle of the space. So you can look that up and it's very easy to follow which school you're going to go with, but go with one or the other. Don't try to blend all of the different schools of Feng Shui. That's where your confusion will lie. But certainly any of the earth energy areas will love that little boost of fire, and that will be relationships, harmony, it'll be health, Tai Chi. I happen to have my Christmas tree in the center of my home because it's right there. It can be seen from all around. And so I find that wonderful. I can really find that joy when I come down the stairs in the morning. I can see it from my living room. And as I pass through, when I come in the day, the tree is right there. And it's just a lovely, joyful thing. But, and then, you know, there's lots of approaches, and then how you decorate it and what colors do you decorate it with. So do you have a whole purple tree? Do you have a whole red tree? Do you have all metallics, and you could put it in one of the metallic energy areas? There's no right or wrong, I suppose, is the quick way to answer that question. But maybe the question to ask yourself is, where will it bring you most joy? Where do you feel needs a lift? Where is the corner of the space that feels a bit dead, a bit heavy in its energy, that would love a boost? That would be my answer. I'm sorry to give you such a big, long-winded, all-encompassing, put it anywhere you like answer, but there's reasoning behind putting it in a lot of places. It's an interesting thing. What
Yeah,
would
I
you?
mean, you know, I've got a little tree there, and I've got a little thing on the table. So it depends, you know, you can mix if you want to. But I think I understand her confusion, because somewhere I read, and I had to block it. I didn't want to be I didn't want to be prime negative. It says that if you have a tree, I don't remember, literally I had to block that information. In one place, I think it was south maybe, you shouldn't even light the lights. What's the point of having a Christmas tree without
Don't
lights?
put your Christmas
I
tree
want to
there.
kill
Yeah.
joy division or something. So I was like,
That would be
no.
terribly sad. A very
So-
sad and lonely looking tree. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Even if it's not, let's say there is such a thing, and I think it's kind of a false problem. I know where some people coming in Feng Shui. So even if you put this positive energy, you could neutralize any negativity if there was there. I don't believe in that, but so it's your, as you said, the intention is the key, you know. So how you do it, and the joy, your energy will override anything that might be there. But yeah, so that's Christmas tree done. Next one is from Roger. I don't think he's here. So he's new to Feng Shui. Where to start? So complete beginner. I'm new to Feng Shui. Where would I start? Is it good Feng Shui to have mirrors in the bedroom? Obviously, he started reading something about Feng Shui. What direction should my head be facing in bed? And what's the most important thing I should know? So it's kind of a starting point for somebody who's new to Feng Shui. What would you say, both of you?
Well, starting with is it good to have Feng Shui to have mirrors in my bedroom? You know, nearly everybody's going to have a mirror in the bedroom. The one place that you do not have mirrors is directly opposite the bed. So we were told, because when you are asleep, the old Chinese thought that the spirits rose left the body while we were asleep. And when they saw themselves in the mirror opposite the bed, they immediately got a terrible shock and went back into the body and woke the person up. So it was energy really that was disturbed as much as anything. But that's one of the reasons not to have mirror at the end of the bed. And anyway, who wants to wake up and see themselves having had a good night's sleep sitting in the mirror there? You also need to be very careful about where they are on the walls and what they are reflecting, because it's not just looking in a mirror. It's if you are in bed and you can see through in a mirror, it's what it's reflecting and what impression that makes on you as well. I'm sure you've got other things to add as well, EDEL.
Yeah, I suppose as well that mirrors expand the chi, so it's doubling the size of the space in a space that we want to contract. We talk about sleep tight. Our bodies like to you know, wrap themselves up and cocoon themselves at night, so that our energy can go inwards and rejuvenate. And so with things that are expanding the chi, and like we said already with the EMF that energizes or activates, I think this energizing or activating is going to work against that need to go in and down and be quiet and rejuvenate. So that would be another reason. You know, definitely, you know, mirrors have a whole layer of information around them, and part of the silvering process, which is lunar energy, and there's loads of information around them, but they do say to keep them to a minimum in a bedroom. And I generally recommend clients to have them maybe on the inside of their wardrobe, so when they open it up and they're getting dressed, they can see themselves, and it's very practical and useful. Or maybe over, you know, the bathroom sink, or, you know, whatever, when they're getting washed or whatever, but not to have so much mirroring, like a wall of mirrored wardrobes. It's just difficult to live with. It's wonderful during the day to bounce light into a dark room, but it works against that need to sleep tight. That's what I would say about mirrors, you know. But it's
the only other thing I would add is that if you have got a main mirror in a room, you should always make sure that it's taller than the tallest person, because you need to you need to be able to have the whole of your energy field reflected in that mirror, which obviously goes above the head and so on. So, you know, don't have it cut off actually at head height, have it taller than that.
Yeah, yeah. And then just looking at what he's saying, what direction should his head be facing? Well, the first things first with all forms of Feng Shui, all schools of Feng Shui, is form. So we always want to have our head to a solid wall with a good solid headboard. We don't want our head to a window, you know, if we can avoid. If the room will allow, to have our head to a good solid wall and a good solid headboard, equal space on either side, and a view then to the door and the window. We don't want to be directly in line with the door to the room, either side on or feet on to the door, because if you can imagine energy entering a room, it's like think of it like a draft. You don't want to be in the line of the draft. You want to be off in an eddy somewhere, nicely, gently out of the line of the chi coming into the space. So it's settled again. So first and foremost, head to the solid wall, good solid headboard, space on either side of the bed. That's good form, and that will allow your body to settle. That's primal. When your back is exposed or your head is exposed to a window when you're trying to sleep, it's activating and energizing again. And you're going to feel not as rested, not as settled. You won't rest as, you won't sleep as deeply in that scenario. Calculating your best directions is another whole thing that we won't be able to get into here, but you work out your GUA, QUA or GUA, and that will give you 4 ideal directions to sleep with your head, the crown of your head pointed towards as you sleep, and 4 not so helpful. And there will be balancing and mitigating elements you can add in if there is no choice, which there very often isn't because of built-in furnishings and whatever. But that is something that you can look up. But form takes precedence over everything else. So you get the form right first, and then if you've got choices, we like to have your head towards one of your better directions for harmony if you can. Have you something to say on that subject, Liz?
Totally agree with that. Form is number 1, always. Again, I mentioned geopathic stress. Ideally, the bed shouldn't be over any GS. But again, like you've just said, most bedrooms, you only have one area to put the bed. You don't usually have lots of different choices. So, but certainly the form is number 1. Is something you will always look at, and you know it will promote much better sleep if you are in total control of the room. Yeah.
And then what's kind of the most important thing you should know?
Well, form, I think form in a bedroom.
But generally speaking, I think he meant kind of general thing because he's new to Feng Shui. What would be, if you had to advise him on one thing that would make a big difference, where to start with Feng Shui?
I think form. I think form is actually everything, you know, where he's to look at how his building is situated, to look at how his space is oriented, so that he feels backed up and supported, where the building is situated, and then within the building, where he's sitting for long periods, where he's sleeping. Form is where it has to begin. And this is again going back to working from home. A lot of people, you know, during the first lockdown were perched at very temporary spaces, but now people are maybe in a hybrid situation or working from home permanently. They need to have a space that has good form. So good solid high back to their office chair, a properly designed, ergonomically suitable office chair, which is 5 prongs, equally balanced on the floor, you know, back to the solid wall with a view into the room, space between the front of their desk and another wall, not jammed up against a wall. It gives room to grow into. It gives, you know, future possibilities. It gives space to breathe. So form actually is where he should begin, and then decide where he wants to come with everything else. Now, sorry, Liz, I jumped in there very quickly and you were going to speak. Sorry about that.
No. You know, the most important thing he should know is to have a good Feng Shui consultant come in and obviously give him what he needs, tell him what he needs to know properly. You know, it's like a lot of things, isn't it? You know, the car, the computer, you know, it's not working. Have a fiddle with it yourself and make it a lot worse. And that's what I think, you know, a lot of people do. So if he is interested in Feng Shui, I think get a good consultant in and they can help him out.
Yeah, or take a good foundation level course, you know, get a grounding,
Yes,
and
if
learn
he
a
wants
little
to do
bit
it
about the
himself.
theory behind all of those different articles they're reading on the internet. Start with a grounding.
Yes.
So, you know, if they get the grounding, they'll understand where that different opinion is coming from. They'll understand the grounding behind it.
And I believe that you do one of these courses, do you not, Edel?
I do definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, online. But
Perfect.
you know, you're quite right with and Jackie does as well. And a lot of the, you know, you find those courses on the Feng Shui Society website. There's lots of people giving them either online or in person, and lots of consultants that you could, you know, have somebody come and have a look at your space, which would be deeply personalized, and that would be obviously the optimum way of doing it. Yeah.
In the chat, we have one question. Hello from the US. That's Susan. What about dampness in the home?
Liz, do you want to talk about that first, or do you want me to?
Well, I can't honestly say I have a huge amount of knowledge. I have done some houses that had damp, and dampness, particularly in bedrooms, causes very high EMF readings. And it's very difficult to get away from it. I mean, if you do have it in the bedroom, you're not going to have a meter unless you are a consultant. But generally, I would say try and pull the bed head as far away from the wall as you possibly can, because damp creates a very, very bad space and high electromagnetic field readings. Well, they're very detrimental to your health.
Yeah, before you even mention the spores and the, you know, what you're breathing.
Well, that, I mean, obviously, yes, we know that the actual dampness itself is very, very bad. I mean, sadly, we've heard about the story about the little boy who died last week through huge amounts of damp in the house. So, you know, where to start, really? Well, I'm reading that, where to start. Damp in houses is horrendous. It is.
Yeah, I think you have to get an expert in.
You can get a dehumidifier to absorb dampness, which you know, I think they do a very, very good job. Automatic ones, if you can get those. I don't know really what else to say about dampness.
I think you have to find what the source is and see if you can figure out what's causing the damp and deal with it. And if you're not sure, call in an expert to measure it and find out what exactly type of spores it is and what's, you know, how impactful it is on your health. And then, as Liz says, you know, do the obvious, get the dehumidifier, you know, get something, you know, really natural to clean down the walls and you know, kill off the spores that are there. Make sure it's not going to recur. I'd actually move out of that bedroom if they have a choice. It's extremely yin.
Yes.
It's very draining for your energy. It's not healthy to breathe that in at night. To breathe it in anyway, but to breathe it in at night when your body's trying to regenerate wouldn't be a really good idea. I don't know, does anybody else have something they'd like to input on that? Maybe Joy, or do you have anything you'd like to say on that subject?
You have to unmute yourself, Joy.
Yeah, I was getting there. Yes, I'm in the middle of that at the moment because we had a big roof leak 2 stories above my practice room. So dehumidify, absolutely. Be careful what you try and clean the mold up with, because that can, with certain things, it can make the mold kind of knuckle down and spread its spores even more. Use an air purifier that will take the spores out of the air. And you can also get, for about £20, a damp meter that you can use in your own wall that has spikes, and you can just bang it into the wall and it will give you the reading as to what's going on behind any wallpaper or plaster.
Wow.
So little alarms go off.
I've forgotten that, Joy. Yes, we have.
Yeah.
We've got a house in France, which is big. There are no damp courses in France, And we've got that, forgotten that. We've got that little machine that you poke into the wall with the reading. Not that it helps get rid of it in any way, shape or form, but at least you know whether it's there or not, which part of the wall is the worst part. But yes, awful. I've forgotten all about that.
Yes, it was a handy thing. And part of what's happened in our place is we've had a new roof put on the flats. And now the roof is working better. The drain pipe that goes down the centre of the flat hasn't been cleaned out for 50 years. And now that's backing up. And if it, so that's going through the middle of people's homes. So that was a way that I could actually find out if there was a terrible smell coming from somewhere after the roof had been mended. And that gadget was really, really useful. So that's my suggestion. And then just dry things out. Dry things out as best you can, and then get all the plaster off after a leak to make sure everything's dried out properly.
Yeah, it's a big problem, isn't it? It's a big problem.
Yes, huge.
Right. So we don't have any other questions in the chat. So I put this question because I saw that book that EDEL wrote, A Place to Call Home. So I've got a question for you, EDEL. What is a home? What's your definition of a home? And what makes a home from Feng Shui perspective? You know, what specific kind of Feng Shui lenses do you specifically use? You know, and that's your book. I've got the book, yeah, but I'm just doing it part of, just doing a little plug for your book. Does your book does it have all the answers?
No. Well, I have to say, I suppose that's going to be very different for everybody. What is a home? And that's really what the whole premise of even writing the book was, like for people to ask themselves, well, what does home mean for you? Because that is going to be deeply personal. It's going to be based on who brought you up, where you were brought up, whether you were happy in your home or your place of living growing up, what memories and associations you have with the happiest place to live in, or maybe the grandmother's house that was the most lovely, cozy place that you loved to go on holiday to. So a lot of it is memory, and it's very deeply personal. So I always ask, you know, really people, so what does home mean for you? And, you know, to think about that, because we have this idea that, you know, there should be perfection, there should be showroom looking places, there should be, and that actually very often doesn't feel like home at all, even when you attain it. The most expensive house to the most tiny flat, one can feel fabulous and the other can feel, you know, overwhelming. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with money necessarily. It's atmosphere and energy. And, you know, I'm really fascinated by what that means. I suppose, just as a little aside, the reason it became more and more, I suppose, poignant for me was that my mother was suffering with dementia and eventually had to go into a nursing home. And in talking to the people who worked there, they said, oh, you know, home is a 4-letter word here. People are always wanting to go home. And the home they wanted to go to wasn't a place. So they could be brought for a visit back to the house they used to live in, and they'd still ask to go home. So it really became very interesting in that it's a place of belonging. It's a place where you feel safe. It's a place where you feel you belong. Is actually at its fundamental what it is. And so that became very fascinating for us. And I worked with the nursing home to create a greater sense of homeliness in a clinical setting. And, you know, it's very interesting when you pull apart the threads of that. Sorry, I digressed away there. But definitely Feng Shui gives us a tremendous lens through which to look at our space from I suppose, through the prism of the natural world. Because the natural world is our home, the planet is our first home. So there is a cycle of the seasons, there is a, you know, a flow of the 5 elements. And if we can tap into that flow of change and evolution and dynamic balance within our space using Feng Shui, I think that's a wonderful way to land back at what feels like home to us. So I don't know if that's too long-winded an answer for you, but that's what I discovered, really, I suppose, through analyzing it.
So if I had challenged you with one word, what word would you use? And that's a very useful question for others. If you can chat, put it in your chat. One word to describe what home means to you, because that's a nice kind of way to kind of focus on the most important aspects. So Edel, what's your one word for home?
It's belonging.
Belong. Okay.
Yeah, belonging.
Liz, what's your word for home?
I think I'd agree with Adele on that, but also the safe, being safe, feeling safe in your home. You know, being pleased to get home and you think, I'm here, you know, this is great, I'm safe.
There's a great quote from Gaston Bachelard, a French philosopher, and he wrote a book called Poetics of Place, which is one of probably the best books on Feng Shui if you want to give yourself a present for Christmas. It's wonderful. It's just when you read this book, you feel, and this is my word, warmth. You know, you feel so much warmth coming from it. But the safety is very important. He says that, I don't remember exactly, but he says something like that, a home allows a dreamer, us, to dream in peace, whatever you want to dream. So it's quite nice. But anybody else? Safety, that's coming up again a lot. Yeah. Good.
Jan, can you just name that book again?
Poetics of Space by Gaston Bachelard. I'll put it in the once we put it up on the on YouTube. I'll put a link to that book so you can. But
it's always really fascinating to hear, to think about it, isn't it? Just to explore the whole concept of it. Yeah.
So we've got another question here in the chat. So Jenny is asking, is there a cure for chi cutting your bed if you can't move the bed? So you've got, we don't know what exactly, maybe you can, if you want to say a bit more, Jenny, about what sort of cutting she is, like a corner of a table or wardrobe, or what sort of cutting, or something spiky? We don't know. But
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
No, it's just the bed is on the same wall as the door, so the energy is coming in obviously into the room, so it kind of runs then into the bed. So I was just wondering, is there any cure for that? You can't move the bed, so
yeah, it's basically the bed is aligned with the door. Okay, so yeah. Over to you, Adele or Liz.
So I suppose the most obvious thing would be to put something between yourself and the door, if there's room to do that. So maybe, you know, it's a piece of furniture with some lighting, or maybe it's a plant or something there, just to mitigate for the flow of chi. So something for the chi to kind of have to move around before it actually gets to the bed. Obviously, we'd like a piece of furniture to be more well-rounded, nothing angular that's going to create more cutting chi, but something between you and it would be useful. You know,
there's no room though.
Mitigate. Yeah. You've no room.
There's no room, yeah.
No room at all. So you're right up close to
the door. So the door, it's the door, and then there's the bedside locker, and then the bed.
So at least you have the locker, which is good. Yeah. That's useful. So put something, maybe something quite tall on the locker. Maybe, you know, you could put a plant if there's room, or, you know, something between you and it, just to mitigate. You know, you can only do what you can do.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else for the bed. And how well do you sleep, as a matter of interest? Do you sleep well?
I do sleep well, but the more I was thinking about it, I have a problem with my knee, and the door opens towards the bedside locker. So I was kind of feeling like the energy is coming in, and it's probably hitting the bed exactly where my knee is.
Okay, and does the door open or close while you're in the bed? Do you keep the bedroom door closed while you're sleeping?
I do actually keep it closed, yeah.
It shouldn't impact you while you're in the bed then. Yeah. You know, you might maybe look at something like, could be geopathic stress or something, maybe.
Yeah, now that you say that, when you were talking about the geopathic stress, I remember just talking about cats liking to sit on it, and she does like to sit on the end of my bed.
Okay, they also like to sit where it's comfortable, so you know, it's not automatic, but it might be something to douse for. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
No, you're quite welcome. Liz, did you have anything to say on that?
No, I've had one or two clients that have had that, but I wouldn't call it cutting chi as such, because
No.
actually it's not, it can't come through the door and bend to hit you in bed. You know, so it's not actually cutting chi if you think about it, because it's got to go straight, hasn't it? So you're not actually in line with it. It's you know, it would happen more often, say, from the corner of a cupboard or a piece of furniture,
Okay.
where you've got a corner that would create the sha chi at you.
Yeah.
So I
More
don't think,
flow. Yeah.
I don't think you need to worry too much about being sha chi. It's not.
Okay.
But I think, you know, other than putting a thin screen up like EDEL was suggesting, or something, which really, you know, it's messy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want to be rushing out of bed in the middle of the night to go to the loo and walloping yourself in the screen. So
True.
I don't think, it's not ideal. No, I would agree with you. It's not ideal, but it's not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah. Because the only other option is that it goes on the other wall, but then it kind of goes into an alcove, which would mean there'd only be one bedside locker. There wouldn't be space for two bedside lockers. So,
And then
which is the worst evil?
would you be looking? You'd be looking at the door then, would you? If it's
Yeah,
on the
you
other-
would. Yeah, you'd be looking at the wall of the door.
Not terribly ideal either, that is it really? I think you probably are better just leaving it where it is. I
Yeah.
wouldn't worry, and not worrying about it.
Yeah. Okay,
But-
thanks very much.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's that book, The Politics of
Oh, right.
Space. You can see it, and I put the
Yeah.
name in the.
Oh.
So yeah, so we're kind of getting to a close. So any last sort of thoughts, comments, or questions from anybody? But EDEL and Liz, do you want to say anything? Your last words of wisdom and knowledge.
Oh, gosh.
Just to summarize, maybe some of the things we've been talking about today.
Yes, I mean, I'd like to go just back to that very first slide, not the first slide, the second slide, I think it was, looking for the positives and making the most of what we've got already, and maybe adjusting them, but looking for those positives. It all comes down to the gratitude as well, doesn't it? I think I'm a great believer in that. But I like that. You know, what is it do you like about your home? And building on that, I think that's a really, it's a good place to start. You know, that young man who said, what does he need to know about Feng Shui? Well, that isn't Feng Shui, but it's the start of it, isn't it? Making the most of what you've got, really, particularly in this day and age at the moment.
We've got another question very quickly. Have you found that modern electric radiators emit high levels of EMFs or electrosmog?
Just repeat that, Jan. Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of it.
So have you found that modern electric radiators emit high levels of EMFs, radiation?
I don't have huge experience of the electrical ones. Have you, Liz?
No, I haven't, I'm afraid.
Haven't measured one.
No.
Have you measured Sanmi, Jan, on your
Well, it depends. So some have huge, some less. It depends on the make. It's like with hair dryers. Some hair dryers vary.
Oh,
bad,
yes,
some less.
yes.
So you have to actually physically measure. The cheapest one is, I think, a trimeter is about £100 or $100. It's a little device that measures electric, magnetic, and radio frequencies. It's very basic, but it gives you an idea about that. But the key thing is kind of distance. So the further away you are from any electromagnetic sources, the safer you are, basically. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, as the Gina Marie Tower, who taught us biology, used to say, yeah, they preach prudent avoidance. And she said that really covers a multitude, prudent avoidance. She said, well, there's very little we can prudently avoid in the modern environment. But, you know, pull yourself back from it insofar as you can. absolutely look at your bedroom and look
Yes.
at where you're sitting for longer periods, because you're exposed more in those scenarios. So try and keep those as electrically quiet as you can, and then a little bit of distance between you and it does fall off over distance, you know. So you know, I haven't, I know at one point I measured storage meters, but they actually don't give off, you know, storage heaters, they didn't give off really too much. It was actually okay, but it does depend on the brand, and it depends on its proximity to your body.
Yes, very good.
Mm.
Thank you so much. So we nearly finished, unless anybody has any other questions. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you know, obviously subscribe to our channel and hit that little bell thing so you get you know, notification about the latest videos. And there will be some links as well to EDEL and Liz's websites, so you can revisit their work and contact them directly. But anybody else want to share anything, or anything you've learned today? What's the one thing that you've learned today that you're definitely going to do in your home? Something practical, simple. Anyone?
We've stunned them all into silence.
There's joy, there's joy.
I'm going to find some new plants
Yeah.
Oh,
that
Excellent.
are specifically formaldehyde munching plants. That's my next mission.
They're just fantastic, aren't they? You know, and it's so life-giving besides anything else, but they're tremendously you know, cleaning for the air and tremendously supportive of our health. Yeah.
One of them is called money plant, but not the traditional succulent money plant, but the Indian one with large leaves. So it gives you prosperity and it cleanses the earth.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
It's called Indian money plant. Yeah.
Right. Right.
We're all
Space
ready
clearing,
to
maybe
have-
somebody said, so they've learned something about space clearing. Yeah, great idea. It's one of the key things, and every Feng Shui consultant expert will tell you, you know, start with space cleaning. It's very simple. It costs you nothing. You get rid of stuff. You feel better immediately. And, you know, even if it's like half an hour or 1 hour of space clearing, it's one of the best inventions that we have in Feng Shui, actually, remedies or interventions. I agree.
Clears the air and lets you start again. Resets the energy. Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody
Yeah.
said pine oil, so get some pine oil sprays, you know, lots of
Yeah.
things like
Make
that.
sure
Yes,
it's
that's
pure.
a nice one.
Make sure it's pure essential oil, not synthetic. You know, make sure go to a good company for that, and just use sparingly. Always remember the amount of essential oil that's produced by a plant. There's a lot of plant matter in there. It's quite concentrated. 1 or 2 drops is much better than all the bottle. Okay, you know, honor nature, and just a small bit, and just test it out. If you're somebody who has respiratory issues first, just sniff the cap and make sure it's good for you. But yeah, any of the spruce or the pines, Pinus sylvestris, lovely one, highly readily available. Black spruce, you know, really nice one as well. In the States, they have some beautiful pines. The pinyon pine is absolutely gorgeous. That's the one that makes the pine nuts. Really gorgeous. Engelmann spruce. There's lots and lots of conifers, but the ones that are most readily available, and certainly at this time of the year, would be the Pinus sylvestris, black spruce, Douglas pine, and they're all wonderful. They all have slightly different chemical components, but just slightly different chemistry, I should say, but definitely all lovely. And sure, we bring it into our houses every year anyway, so why not go with the flow of it?
Wonderful. Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you both, and thank you everybody to come around. And
Yes.
we'll plan some
Namaste.
dates for the next year. So just again, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next year. And have a wonderful, you know, holidays and the new year.
Absolutely.
I think Jack is doing a presentation next week about space cleaning. So,
Oh,
Jack,
brilliant!
you
She'll
want to
show you
say
how to do it.
Perfect.
Brilliant,
do you want
brilliant.
to say anything, Jackie, about your free webinar? It's next Wednesday.
No, just hope is it next Wednesday or Tuesday?
Or Tuesday, maybe Tuesday.
Tuesday, I don't think it is. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to teach a space clearing ceremony for your home. So just in time for the new year.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Very good.
Oh, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the orange, the citrus on the front door to welcome the new year in.
Very good. Very
That's
good.
good.
That it was orange essential oil,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, pure orange essential oil. And
I think
use
that's-
organic when you're using citrus, because the citrus oils come from the peel. And so if it's sprayed, you're going to get the spray as well. So always when you're getting citrus oils, use organic if you can.
Say that bit again at the end.
If you use organic essential oils when you're using citrus, especially because the citrus oil comes from the peel. And
Yes.
so if the fruit has been sprayed, you'll also get the spray from the peel. So just get an organic citrus, especially, you know, I
see
don't
what
go
you're
for
saying.
organic anyway, but organic citrus. Yeah.
Great.
Right. Lovely.
Well, have a nice evening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Joining.
Thank you.